Great job, Group 3, for an informative webinar. To continue, once again, welcome pre-service teachers to our webinar entitled Teachers Talk. I am Mama Liza and I will be your host for today. For the second part of this webinar entitled Basic Laws on Professionalization of Teaching, we will examine and inspect the 3 basic laws that are surely interesting for us future educators. These topics will be discussed by Group 4 with Sir Jacob, Sir Leonard, Ma'am Janella, Ma'am Julia, Sir Carl, and yours truly, Ma'am Eliza. Before we get deeper on these topics, we must first know the learning objectives. At the end of this webinar, you are expected to understand the significance of these laws to future educators, able to distinguish and be aware about the different sections in each laws, comprehend and internalize these 3 basic laws of professionalization of teaching, boost knowledge and skills to discuss and impart it to others such as fellow teachers and future educators. Without further ado, let's start now the discussion.
Right, thank you and good day everyone. I'm John Leonard Junicio and I am one of the presenters for this webinar. And now I will give you the introduction for the part 2 of this webinar. Preparation is vital in the field of teaching in order to provide every student with proper education. A professional teacher aims to undergo necessary training to produce intellectual exchanges in the classroom. So professionalization of teaching ensures the quality education by maintaining quality teachers. The 3 basic laws of teaching are Presidential Decree of 1006, Republic Act number 7836, and the Republic Act number 9293. And we will tackle those 3 basic laws later, and you better listen carefully because we have the question of the day. So before we start, question is, why is knowing the 3 basic laws about teaching and education important to teachers? And to answer that question, simulan na natin ang discussion. I would like to call on Mr. Jacob Ogbak to start the discussion with the first law for teaching.
Alright, thank you John Leonard para sa iyong napakagandang introduction at brief overview sa mga batas nating di-discuss ngayon. Dumako na po tayo sa unang batas. Ito ay ang Presidential Decree 1006. Kilala rin ito bilang Decree Professionalizing Teaching at isinasaad ng batas na ito na ang lahat ng educational institution sa bansa ay dapat nasa ilalim ng pangangasiwa at regulasyon ng Estado. Sumunod, isinasaad din ng batas na ito na ang Estado ay dapat magtatag at magpanatili ng isang kompleto, sapat at dekalidad at integradong sistema ng edukasyon na relevant pagdating sa goals ng national development. Sumunod, kaugnay ng mga objectives na ito, ang Department of Education and Culture ay nag-adapt ng mga paraan upang supervise ang lahat ng mga educational institution sa bansa. Ang pagsusupervise ng Department of Education and Culture ay nakatuon primarily sa mga educational institutions. Sinisiguro nito na ang lahat ng educational institutions ay nagagampanan ng kanilang responsibilidad pagdating sa pagtuturo sa mga estudyante. At syempre, para sa mga educational institutions, kailangan nila ng mga guro na makakatulong o maging susi para ma-achieve ang mga objectives na ito. Ngayon, ang mga guro ay kailangang equipped at prepared upang turuan ng mga estudyante na i-develop ang kanilang moral character, personal discipline, pagmamahal sa bansa, napakahalaga. Sumunod, ang duties bilang isang Filipino citizen, at overall in general, upang ma-develop ang ang pagkatao o ang attitude ng isang Filipino citizen. So, yun lang upang i-discuss ang iba pang sinasaad ng Presidential Decree 1006, ipapasa na dito kay John Leonard. So, John Leonard, take it away.
Alright, thank you Mr. Jacob for that informative presentation. And hello everyone, it's me again. And ipagpapatuloy ko lang yung discussion sa pagdidescribe ng mga bagay na dapat nating i-consider sa law na ito. Una na sa listahan dahil sa paglaki o sa patuloy na paglago ng populasyon, particularly in the field of teaching. Alam nyo ba na sa civil sector pa lang, civil service sector pa lang, ay meron na tayong 300,000 na teachers ang nade-deployed all over the country. And additional to that, we also need to ensure na yung pag-qualify natin o pagpili o recruit sa isang bagong teacher, kailangan dumaan sa masinsin na proseso. Kasi hindi biro ito. And kailangan din natin i-overlook yung requirements na kailangan nilang i-meet. Kasi mahalaga yung kalidad ng isang tao eh. And through qualitative requirements, doon masasabi mo na isang professional na isang tao kapag pasado siya sa requirements na yun. And it is also necessary na rin to regulate the teaching profession. And also, in this law, kino-consider nila or nagmamatter dito yung years ng tinuon mo sa pag-aaral. It matters kasi hindi tayo makakonsider na professional not unless natapos natin yung kurso natin. Kailangan yung required na matapos natin yung years na kailangan natin gugulin sa pag-aaral. And as we all know that tayo, di ba, as we are pre-service teachers, hindi pa tayo makakonsidered as a profession kasi nag-aaral pa rin tayo. And lastly, kilala tayong mga teachers na isa sa mga contributor sa nation building. And as a professional, kailangan mataas yung tingin nila sa atin and raise na rin natin yung ating moral. Dapat yung standard sa atin ay high. Kumbaga, yung ating characteristic is check all the boxes eh. From personality, values, credentials, kailangan yan ay excellent at talaga namang kahanga-hanga. And by that, mako-consider tayong is bilang professional and maro-recognize yung profession natin as a teacher. Dumako naman na tayo sa sections ng law na ito. And tinatawag ko ulit si Mr. Jacob para sa paunang sections ng law na ito. Thank you.
Alright, thank you very much, John Leonard, para sa iyong napaka-informative at napakagandang discussion. Ngayon, tumuloy na po tayo sa Section 1 to 9 ng Presidential Decree 1006. So, Section 1, title, this decree shall be known as the Decree Professionalizing Teaching. Nabanggit ko na rin to kanina sa unang discussion ko. So, sunod, Declaration of Policy. Sinasabi dito na ang teacher education ay dapat mabigyan ng primary concern at attention ng gobyerno at dapat ito ay mapanatili sa pinakamataas na level ng kalidad at ito ay dapat maging oriented pagdating sa mga kondisyon, pangangailangan at adhikain ng mga Pilipino dahil ang edukasyon ay susi sa pag-unlad ng bayan. So, Section 3, definition of terms. Ang unang term natin dito is teaching. Tulad na sinabi dito, it refers to the profession primarily concerned with the classroom instruction. So as long as nagtuturo ka, yung ginagawa mo, considered na yun as teaching, hindi na mahalaga kung elementary or secondary level yung tinuturuan mo. At hindi na rin mahalaga kung part-time or full-time or kung public or private school ka nagtuturo as long as naka-align ka sa curriculum na prescribed ng National Board of Education. So next, teachers. It refers to all persons engaged in teaching. Hindi na rin mahalaga dito kung, tulad na kanina sinabi ko, hindi na mahalaga dito kung sa secondary or elementary level ka nagtuturo or public or private ka man. As long as nagtuturo ka, considered ka ng teacher. So yung ginagawa mo, considered yung teaching, which is yung first term natin kanina. So ikaw na nagtuturo, considered ka as teachers. So next, kasama rin para sa teachers yung guidance counselors, school librarians, vocational teachers, at iba pa. So next slide, totoo na. Section 4, creation of the National Board of Teachers. So kita naman natin dito sa chart natin, Secretary of Education and Culture, unang-una. Sunod is yung chairman from Civil Service Commission. Sunod is yung commissioner from Professional Regulations Commission. So, pang-apat, lastly, 2 members na nagre-represent ng private sector na i-appoint ng presidente. So, next slide. Section 5, powers and duties. The board shall have the following powers and duties. Una, dapat ang board ay may kakayahang mag-appoint ng set ng examiners sa kada examination na magaganap, at sila na rin ang mag-determine at magpe-prepare ng magiging laman ng examination para sa teachers. So sunod, ang board ay dapat may kakayahang mag-determine at mag-ayos ng date at kung kailan mangyayari yung examination. Dapat kaya din nila mag-appoint ng supervisors at examiners na manggagaling sa empleyado ng gobyerno. So, dapat itong mga empleyado ng gobyerno, sila ay entitled sa daily allowance na isi-set ng board. So, dapat din meron silang kakayahan na gamitin yung mga buildings and facilities ng public and private schools para sa examination purposes. So dapat meron din silang kakayahang mag-approve ng mga applications para sa pagtitake ng exam, at kakayahang mag-approve ng release of examination results. So next, dapat ang board ay may kakayahang mag-obserba pagdating sa mga conditions na nakaka-apekto pagdating sa pagpa-practice ng teaching profession. Dapat kaya din nila makapag-adapt ng mga measures na kakailanganin upang ma-improve itong mga practices na makakapagpa-improve or magiging better yung magiging matututunan ng mga nag-aaral ng teaching profession. So next, dapat may kakayahan sila mag-issue, suspend, revoke, replace, or reissue ng professional teacher certificate at mag-administer ng oaths. Sunod, appoint subject to the provisions of existing laws. So dapat meron silang kakayahan na mag-adjust or provisions, revisions pagdating sa mga batas na makakaapekto sa performance ng mga empleyado or ng mga teachers. So sunod, prescribe and collect examination and other fees at it may deem proper. So lastly, dapat meron silang kakayahang magpalaganap or magpakalat ng mga rules and regulations na kanilang ipapatupad. So next slide. Qualification requirements for examination applicants. So una, the applicant must be a citizen of the Philippines. Sunod, syempre, dapat yung applicant mayroon siyang good moral character dahil mag-a-apply siya na bilang maging professional teacher. So, sunod, dapat yung applicant wala siyang physical or mental defect na makaka-apekto or magiging dahilan upang hindi siya makapag-serbisyo ng maayos o makapagturo ng maayos. And lastly, dapat meron siyang minimum educational qualifications. So next slide. Para sa kindergarten and elementary, dapat ang mga nag-a-apply ay mayroong bachelor's degree in elementary education or its equivalent. Sunod sa secondary, para sa mga nag-a-apply ng secondary ng license or examination para sa secondary level, dapat meron silang bachelor's degree in education or equivalent with a major or minor, or a bachelor's degree in arts or sciences with at least 18 units in professional education. And lastly, para sa mga secondary vocational, kailangan meron silang 2-year technical courses, bachelor's degree in the field of specialization with at least 18 units din ng professional education. So next slide, section 7, tulad lang ng sinabi ko doon sa naunang section, ang dapat ang board ay kaya mag-appoint ng set of examiners. So sunod, section 8, scope of examination, ang board ay kailangan maglaman ng written test at yung sakop nito ay yung board na nga yung mag-aayos or mag-determine tulad ng sinabi ko kanina. Siyempre, kailangan i-take into consideration dito yung teaching plan ng mga schools na legally constituted in the Philippines. So lastly, section 9, ratings in the examination. Upang makapasa yung examinee or yung candidate, dapat mag-obtain siya ng general average of at least 80% sa lahat ng subject at wala dapat bababa ng 50% sa mga any subjects. So, yun na yung akin. Section 1 to 9 na pala yun. So, yung kalahati kay John Leonard na ulit. So, John Leonard, ikaw na po ulit. Salamat po. Sana may natutunan kayo.
Mr. Jacob for that well presentation. And again, I'm John Leonard and I will be discussing the remaining sections of the Presidential Decree of 1006. So let's continue the discussion starting from section 10. Section 10 is the report of the results of the examination. In this section, sinasabi dito na all examiners kailangan magsumite or kailangan mag-report ng resulta o ng result ng ratings na na-obtain nila or nakuha nila from the examinations. And binibigyan lang sila ng board within o sa loob ng 150 days right after the last day ng examination para mag-report. And depende pa rin yun, pwede pa siyang ma-extend kung depende sa reason ng board. Okay. Next section is section 11, issuance of certificates. So dito naman, ang pinapayagan lang o ang inu-issuehan lang ng certificate para makapagturo ay yung mga teacher na nakapasa given by the Civil Service Commission and the Department of Education and Culture. And based sa institution na yon, sila lang yung masasabing and kino-consider na nakapasa sa examinations, and sila lang yung pwedeng isuhan o bigyan ng certificate. Also, this provision ina-apply din to sa mga teachers na may permanent appointment under the Magna Carta para sa public school and sa iba pang qualified for registration bilang professional teachers under this decree. The next section is the section 12, registration. So, napakalaga ng registration na to kasi ito yung maging evident na pwede ka or entitled ka to all the rights and privilege na makapagturo bilang isang professional teacher. Yes, and next slide please. Next is the section 13, reissuance of revoked certificates and replacement of lost certificate. So if ever na-revoke na yung certificate mo or nawala mo yung certificate or nasira, may chance ka pa rin naman para makakuha nito. Pwede kang mag-request at magpa-issue ulit doon sa board para makakuha ka ng another copy ng certificate mo or duplicate copy ng certificate mo upon upon payment of the required fees. So next is section 14. Section 14, registration by reciprocity. So, under this section, hindi pinahihintulutan yung teacher of a foreign nationality na ma-admit or mag-take ng examination for teacher or even bigyan ng certificate of registration para maging entitled na makapagturo. Not unless mag-register ka by reciprocity. Meaning, mutual exchange to sa bansa natin to the other foreign country. So, if the requirement sa registration sa nasabing foreign country or state ay substantially same lang sa requirement nung required sa decree na ito, sa law natin na ito, ay same lang doon sa law nila, law sa foreign country na nag-aalaw sila ng Filipino citizens na magturo. And then, pwede na nilang i-grant yung same privilege bilang citizen from both country. And pag mutual na yung privilege, and then pwede ka nang magpasa ng requirements or mag-submit ng competent and conclusive documents as evidence and na aprobado ng Department of Foreign Affairs na katunayan ay meron kang permit as a citizen ng Philippines to practice teaching profession sa ilalim din ng rules and regulation ng law na ito. So next section is, next slide please. So next is section 15, prohibition. So mahigpit na pinagbabawal ang isang tao na magturo as a teacher nang wala namang concrete evidence na sila ay isang professional. So whether in the public or private, elementary and secondary school, bawal. Not unless title holder ka or meron kang professional teacher certificate na katunayan na pwede kang magturo or isa kang professional teacher or a valid professional teacher certificate na katunayan pwede kang magturo or isa kang professional teacher under this decree. So next section is section 16, a penal provision. Dito naman sa section na to, pag nahulihan ka or nahuli ka nagpa-practice or nahuli ka na nagturo ng walang valid professional teacher certificate or nameke ka ng credentials or gumawa ka ng sarili mong certificate or ina-assume mo or ina-entitle mo yung sarili mo as a professional teacher without any concrete evidence na ikaw ay isang professional teacher talaga. So, ang mag-violate sa provision na ito ay pwedeng ma-penalize by a fine of not less than 1,000 pesos or more than 5,000 pesos with and hindi lang yan, pwede ka rin makulong or you will be suffer in imprisonment less than 6 months or more than 2 years. In addition, depende pa sa court kung parehas pang ipapataw sa iyo yung fine and imprisonment. Next slide please. Okay, thank you. So section 17. Section 17 is repealing clause. Sinasabi dito na all acts, decrees, executive orders, administrative orders, rules and regulations or parts thereof inconsistent with the provisions of this decree are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. Okay? And next, section 18 is separability clause. In case any provision of this decree or any portion thereof is declared unconstitutional by a competent court, other provision shall not be affected thereby. And lastly, section 19, effectivity. This decree shall take effect January 1, 1977. And that's all for the Presidential Decree of 1006. And I hope that you learned something and aware na kayo with regards in this law. And I just want to remind everyone, particularly with to those future educators, na to take note of this discussion for a safe and healthy teaching. And that's all for my report and for the first law of of teaching, which is the Presidential Decree of 1006. And for the next reporter and the next law, I would like to call on Miss Venus to discuss the Republic Act of 7836. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Dionisio. Once again, I'm Miss Eliza Marie C. Venus, and I'll be the first reporter for Article 1 and 2, Sections 1 to 12 of Republic Act Number 7836, an act to strengthen the regulations and supervisions of the practice of teaching in the Philippines, and prescribing a licensure examinations for teachers and for other purposes. Let's start now the discussion. Next slide, please. For Article 1, title. Next slides for the sections. Section 1, title. The Republic Act Number 7836 is also known as the Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994. Section 2, Statement of Policy. Teachers have an important role when it comes to nation building and development, as most of the growing children in our community or in our nation usually pass on our hands, so teachers have a big part to our community and nation. In this case, states should make sure that we continuously produce a quality education, and the way to ensure it is to properly supervise, regulate licensure examinations, and professionalization of the practice of teaching profession. Section 3, we have two listed objectives under this act. First is promotion, development, and professionalization of teachers and the teaching profession. Second is the supervision and regulation of licensure examinations for the assurance of quality of education. Next slide. Section 4, the definitions of terms. First word that we have is teaching, which describes the profession and the thing a teacher do in a classroom for both elementary and secondary levels in line with the curriculum given by Department of Education or DepEd. Next word is the teacher, which are the people who teach and person who helps students to acquire knowledge, competence, and virtue. Whether they are working part-time or full-time, whether they are public teachers or private teachers, they are all still entitled as teachers. Next word is the board. It is referred as the people who established and constituted under this act. Last term that we have in section 4 is the commission, which is obviously known by all of us, which is the Professional Regulation Commission or the PRC. Next slide. For Article 2, Board for Professional Teachers. Next slides for Section 5 and so on. Section 5, Creation and Composition of the Board. So as we have tackled a while ago, board are the people who established and constituted under this act. They have power under the general supervision and administrative control of the Professional Regulation Commission or the PRC, and then referred to as the Commission, that is composed of 5 members appointed by the President of the Philippines. So now, let's talk how President appoint members or the board. President will appoint from among the recommendees chosen by the Commission. They are all, or the recommendees are all from nominees selected by created associations of teachers who duly possess all the qualification prescribed in Section 8. So later we'll tackle Section 8. Chairman will be chosen from the 5 appointed members. So later, as what I've said, we'll discuss the qualifications needed to be one of the nominees for recommendees. Next slide. We have Section 6. These are the duties and functions of the board. First is to advocate and enforce rules and regulations in accordance with this Act and Charter of the Professional Regulation Commission or the PRC. Next, they should fix and make the examination they organize. Board issues, suspend, or revoke the certificate of registration for the practice of the teaching profession. They prescribe and collect examinations and other fees as it may deem proper. Prescribe and or adopt a code of ethical and professional standards for the practice of the teaching profession. Administer oaths in connection with the administration of this Act. Next slide for continuation. They also have to supervise and regulate things that are important for professional teachers in the Philippines. Adapt an official seal of the board. Get ideas and conditions that affect the practice of the teaching profession. Apply such good ideas for enhancement. Ensure all educational institutions comply with the essential requirements. Investigate and do not tolerate violations of the Act. Issuing of subpoena if violation acquired, and discharge unnecessary powers, duties, and functions as it cannot enhance the practice of the teaching profession. Next slide. We have Section 7. Term of office. One member shall serve for 1 year. One member for 2 years. The chairman, vice chairman, and one member for 3 years. Vacancies shall be served for the unexpired term only. No person who has served for 2 consecutive terms shall be eligible to reappoint. An appointment to fill an unexpired term shall be considered an appointment to complete term. They should take an oath about their duties. All in all, board members should hold 3 terms. So now, we have the Section 8, Qualification of Members. So, these are, or the following are the qualifications that the nominees or the board members should have. First, they must be a citizen and resident of the Philippines, at least 35 years old, with clear background and integrity. They should be a holder of the degree Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science in Education, and preferably a holder of Master's or Doctorate degree in Education. It should be equivalents from a university, school, college, academy, or institute duly constituted. So, even they are from university, school, college, or academy, it's still okay. They should be a professional teacher with a valid certificate of registration and license, have at least 10 years of professional teaching in elementary or secondary level, do not have an interest in money making through schools and university. So next slide, we have the Section 9, compensation of the board. So, their compensation is based on the number of examinees or candidates. Chairman, vice chairman, and the members of the board will be equally paid to existing regulatory bodies under the Professional Regulation Commission or the PRC. For Section 10, we have the supervision of the board and custodian of its record. The commission should always keep things that involve professional teachers. The board shall be under commission. So, all of the members of the board are all under the PRC. Section 11, we have Secretariat and Support Services. Secretariat and Support Services. Providing a secretariat and other support services to ensure that the provision of this act are carried out properly. It is all the responsibility of Professional Regulation Commission through its chairman. So, as we have the act, boards should be properly organize, or they are all responsible for doing this act properly. For Section 12, we have removal of a board member. The president also have the power to remove the chairman or any member of the board, as he or she is also the one who appointed it or appointed them. Upon recommendation for an inappropriate act of professional teachers. So, this is the end of the Article 1 and 2, Sections 1 to 12 of Republic Act 7836. Thank you for listening. Let's continue our discussion with Miss Austria. Next slides for about Article 3 of Republic Act 7836. Once again, I'm Miss Eliza Mercy Venus. Next reporter will be Miss Austria.
So thank you, Ma'am Eliza, for that wonderful presentation. Again, my name is Janela May Austria, and my topic for today is all about the continuation of the Republic Act number 7836, which is Article 3, Examination and Registration. So for Section 13, examination, registration, and license required, for you to practice teaching is kailangan meron muna tayong license, and in order for you to have a license is kailangan nakapag-register ka for the written examination, which is the LET or the Licensure Examination for teachers. And syempre, kailangan nakapasa ka rin. So for Section 14 naman, it is the scope of the examination. So for elementary level, it is divided into two parts, which is the professional education. It is all about the fundamentals of teaching and the general education or the general knowledge. So for secondary level, ito na yung atin. It is divided into three parts, which is the professional education, general education, and the field of specialization. So in our major, it is science. So for Section 15, it is the qualification requirements of the applicants before ka makapag-take ng LET. Of course, unang-una is kailangan citizen ka ng Philippines. You should also be 18 years of age, at least 18 years of age. Next is in good health and of good reputation with high moral values. Of course, kino-consider natin ang high moral values because as a future teacher, we are role models of our students. Next is has not been convicted, ibig sabihin without criminal records. And lastly is the graduate of a school, college, or university recognized by the government. So, meron din tayong mga minimum educational qualifications na kino-consider. For teachers in preschool, kailangan graduate ka ng bachelor's degree in early childhood education. For teachers in the elementary level, kailangan graduate ka ng bachelor's degree in elementary education. For teachers naman for secondary level is kailangan graduate ka ng bachelor's degree in education major, or kung hindi ka man graduate ng education is meron ka dapat bachelor's degree in arts and sciences, and kailangan mo mag-take ng subjects regarding professional education, taking 10 units. So for teachers of vocational and 2-year technical courses naman, is kailangan mo rin ng bachelor's degree in the field of specialization, and kailangan mo mag-take ng professional education subjects with at least 18 units. So next is the Section 16, the report of the result of the examination. So within 120 days after the examination, the ratings obtained by each candidate to the Professional Regulation Commission. So ibig sabihin, 120 days tayong kakabahan at iisipin kung nakapasa tayo or hindi. But as pre-service teachers, as early as today, dapat kiniklaim na natin na pumasa sa LET. So, for Section 17 naman, it is all about the issuance of certificate of registration and professional license. So, it's very important na nire-renew natin yung license, and kailangan magbabayad tayo ng registration fee for 3 consecutive years. Annually naman yan. Para ma-remain yung validity ng validity ng license. Kasi it is important na valid ang certificate of registration mo and valid din ang professional license mo bago ka makapagturo. So, next is the section 18, Oath before practice. Every registrant shall be required to take his or her professional oath before practicing as a professional teacher. So, it's important. So, for section 19 naman, it is all about merit system of teachers. So, section 19 is periodic merit examination of teachers. So, ang mga teachers, before ka maka-receive ka ng merit from the board or the commission, is kailangan nakapag-take ka ng oral and written examination in the span of 5 years. So, wala namang pressure yon. Ang merit exam din is for promotion, and it has no fee. Ibig sabihin, walang bayad. So, kung hindi ka man nakapasa, ayan, section 20, failure to pass the merit examination. Kung hindi ka nakapasa in second time around, it's okay. Pwede ka namang mag-take ulit. Kaso, kailangan makapag-take ka ng mga subjects provided by the DECS or the Department of Education in Culture and Sports. So, para makapag-exam ka the third time. Kung hindi ka man ulit makapasa, it's okay. Hindi naman siya magiging reason for your dismissal para matanggal sa ating field. So, ayan, kapag nakapasa ka na sa merit examination, so section 21, it's all about incentives. So, ang ating qualification is, of course, meron ka ng diploma, the merit by the board, nakapasa ka na. You can also earn merit points by having promotion to teach for higher levels. So next is be placed in the priority list for the government scholarship. And lastly is nakapag-contribute ka sa education na recognized ng board. Like for example is inventions, nakapag-publish ka ng books and such things na very helpful for education at recognized. So for section 22 naman, integration of the teaching profession. So ito, napakahalaga na tayong mga teachers ay nasa isang national organization. Kasi para makapag-explore din tayo, and of course, it's a win-win situation kasi ma-receive din natin yung mga benefits na provided no napili nating organization. So, for section 23, it is all about the revocation of the certificate of registration, suspension from the practice of the teaching profession, and the cancellation of the temporary or special permit. So, ito na yung mga hindi dapat natin gawin para hindi tayo matanggal sa ating field of profession. So, number 1 is the conviction for any criminal offense. Ibig sabihin, may criminal records or nakulong ka, ganyan, is madidismiss ka sa teaching profession. So, next is the immoral or unprofessional, dishonorable conduct. So, ibig sabihin is nakagawa ka ng bagay na unprofessional. So, in our field of profession kasi is important na maging professional tayo at all times. And also, kaya nga tayo tinatawag na patience is a virtue in the for teachers. So next is the declaration by a court of competent jurisdiction for being mentally unsound or insane. O sabihin, you're not mentally stable enough to teach. So, ayun. So next is the malpractice, gross incompetence, gross negligence, or serious ignorance of the practice of the teaching profession. So, sabihin, you don't have the mastery of the subject you're teaching. Kaya nga, yun, ang napakalaga na alam natin kung ano ang ating tinuturo. Kaya nga tayo nag-aaral sa college at kaya nga ang teachers is considered as forever learners. So, ayun, maaari ka ding matanggal pala kapag ikaw ay or hindi mo master ang tinuturo mo. So, for next naman is the use of perpetration of any fraud or deceit in obtaining a certificate of registration, professional license, or special temporary permit. Ito naman, it's all about yung pamimeke ng mga certificate of registration, professional license, di ba? Sobrang hirap makuha nun, then pepekein lang. So, napakabawal nun. So, next is the chronic inebriety or habitual use of drugs. So, hindi ko na-explain yon. So, next is the violation of any provisions of this act. So, the rules of regulation, kung na-violate mo. Kaya nga meron tayong standards of teaching, meron din tayong codes of ethics for us to be guided na kung anong mga hindi or dapat gawin as a teacher. So, napakahalaga na ating sundin yun. And lastly is the unjustified or willful failure to attend seminars, workshops, conferences, and the like, or the continuing education program prescribed by the board and the examination. So, it's important pala na tayo ay nakakapag-attend sa mga seminars. So, yung pag-attend pala natin sa mga webinars ngayon is a practice for the future na tayo ay laging maging tayo ay maging cooperative and magkaroon ng participation. Kasi, pwede rin palang maging source of dismissal yun. So, ayun lang. So, that's all for my report. Now, I'll pass my spotlight to Ma'am Julia. So, thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, Ms. Janella. Again, I am Julia Porpora and I will continue the report about RA 7836. So, Section 24, Registration by Reciprocity. So, nakasaad dito na walang individual of foreign nationality ang pwedeng makatanggap ng permit as professional teacher dito sa Pilipinas unless yung bansa na pinanggalingan niya ay nagbibigay sa mga mag-a-apply na Filipino teacher ng privilege na katulad ng natatanggap ng mga mamamayan ng bansang iyon. So, sunod, Section 25, Roster of Professional Teachers. So, ang roster of professional teachers, yun yung listahan ng mga professional teacher kasama yung iba nilang mga relevant informations na dapat may kopya ang Commission on the Board, Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, at saka yung mga accredited organization of professional teachers. Sunod, Section 26, Registration and Exemption. So, 2 years after ng effectivity ng batas na ito, walang kahit sino ang pwedeng mag-offer o mag-practice ng professional teaching unless siya ay holder ng Certificate of Registration, ng Professional License, or ng Special or Temporary Permit. So, kanina doon sa Section 13, binanggit yung about sa examinations. So, bali may mga tinukoy ang batas na ito na mga exempted doon or yung mga pwedeng mabigyan ng certificate at lisensya kahit hindi sila mag-exam. Given that, upon the approval of this act, sila ay holder ng Certificate of Eligibility as a teacher or registered professional teacher sila sa National Board for Teachers. Or kung hindi sila pasok dito sa A and B, pasok naman sila doon sa 1 and 2. So, pakibasa na lang yan. Thank you. So, sila ay pwedeng mabigyan ng permit at lisensya kahit hindi sila mag-exam. Provided that may 2 years sila na panahon para makapagpatala sa roster of professional teachers. Tapos, kung hindi sila makapagpatala, mabibigyan sila ng, lumampas na yung 2 years na yun at hindi sila nakapagpalista doon sa roster of professional teachers. mabibigyan sila ng 5-year temporary permit at saka grace period din na 5 years para makapag-exam. Katulad na ng ibang mga regular na teachers. So, kailangan na nilang mag-exam at makapasa para mapasali sila dito sa roster of professional teachers. Ngayon, kung hindi naman sila makapasa, mabibigyan sila ng special permit as para teachers. Tapos, Department of Education, Culture, and Sports na ang bahala kung saan school sila mapa-assign. Tapos, ayan, next page. Article 4, Provisions relative to the practice of the teaching profession. Next page. Section 27, Inhibition against the practice of the teaching profession. So, yun nga yung sinabi ko kanina. Walang kahit sinong pwedeng mag-practice ng professional teaching unless siya ay holder ng valid certificate of registration at ng valid professional license galing sa commission. So, Section 28, Penal Provisions. So, nakikita niyo din sa gilid yung mga punishable acts na tinukoy ng batas na ito na ang magiging kaparusahan ay either multa na hindi bababa sa 5,000 pesos at hindi higit sa 20,000 pesos or pagkakakulong na hindi bababa sa 6 months at hindi naman tataas sa 5 years. So, yung mga natin sa listahan yan, karamihan about sa yung mga nagtuturo ng walang lisensya or gumagamit ng peking lisensya or gumagamit ng lisensya ng iba. So, kapag may nahuling teacher na mga illegal teacher, hindi lang yung teacher na yon ang mapaparusahan kundi pati yung school din. So, yun. Next page po. Section 29, Appropriations. So, lahat ng multa na malilikom galing doon sa mga violations na tinukoy sa previous section ay yung mga perang iyon mapupunta o mapapasama sa General Appropriations Act or yung about ito dun sa mga pondo-pondo. So, ayun. Section 30, Implementing Guidelines. So, ang board ay may tungkulin na mag-formulate ng guidelines na nakaayon dito sa batas na ito at dapat magbigay sila ng kopya sa Committees on Education, Arts and Culture, sa Committees on Civil Service, at sa Professional Regulation of the Senate and House of Representatives within 30 days after its promulgation. So kapag hindi ito natupad ng board, ang mga officials ay maheld as liable under Republic Act number 6713 or yung Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees. So, Section 31, Transitory Provision. So, ito nga yung lahat ng incumbent teacher sa panahon na naipasa itong batas na ito, private or public sector, mabibigyan sila ng 5-year temporary permit at saka 5-year din na grace period para makapag-exam at mag-take ng examination para mapasama sila sa roster of professional teachers. So, yun. Section 32, Separability Clause, sinasabi naman dito na kapag may isang section sa batas na ito yung ma-considered as or mapatunayan as unconstitutional, yung section na yun lang yung yung ituturing na unconstitutional at hindi dapat madamay o mapasama yung iba pang parte ng section ng batas na ito. So, Section 33 naman, Repealing Clause. So, lahat naman ng mabubuong batas, mga presidential decrees, executive orders, etc. na hindi consistent sa sinasabi ng RA 7836 ay dapat ma-repeal o mapawalang bisa or ma-modified o ma-align para maging consistent dito sa batas na ito. Yun, last section 34, effectivity clause. So, ayan, ang effectivity ng itong batas na ito ay after 15 days following its publication sa Official Gazette or sa dalawang newspaper of general circulation. So, iyon po ang kabuuan ng RA 7836. Sana ay may natutunan kayo. So, ibibigay ko na po ang spotlight sa susunod nating reporter kay Mr. Carr. Ayan. Thank you.
Hello, good day. My name is Carl Cuerdo, and this is my report about Republic Act number 9293, an act amending certain sections of Republic Act number 7836, which is RA number 7836, otherwise known as the Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994. Next slide, please. Republic Act number 9293, be enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the Philippines in Congress Assembled. In first section, Section 1, Section 15, Part E3 of the Republic Act number 7836 is hereby amended as follows. Section 15, Qualification Requirements of Applicants. No applicant shall be admitted to take the examination unless on the date of filing of the application, he shall have complied with the following requirements. Nag-given na yun sa Republic Act number 7836. Next line na agad tayo. We go to the part where it's amended, kung ano yung inamend na act, which is the part 3, for teachers in secondary grades, a bachelor's degree in education of or its equivalent with a major and minor, or a bachelor's degree in arts and science with at least 18 units in professional education. So, sa RA 7836, yung dati ay 10 units na siya nung bago siya yamen, nung inamin na siya, ginawa siyang 18 units. Section 2, Section 26 of the same act is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 26, registration and exemption. No person shall engage in teaching and or act as a professional teacher as defined in this act, whether in the preschool, elementary, or secondary level, unless the person is a duly registered professional teacher and a holder of valid certificate of registration and a valid professional license, or a holder of a valid special temporary permit. So, kailangan in this act, kailangan na to. You need to be registered and also may certificate ka and also a license, or meron kang special temporary permit for being a temporary teacher. Next slide, please. Upon approval of the application and payment of the prescribed fees, the certificate of registration and professional license as a professional teacher shall be issued without examination as required in this act to a qualified applicant who is a holder of a certificate of eligibility as a teacher issued by the Civil Service Commission and the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, or a registered professional teacher with the National Board for Teachers under the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, or TEX, pursuant to Presidential Decree number 1006. Professional teachers who have not practiced their profession for the past 5 years shall take at least 12 units of education courses consisting of at least 6 units of pedagogy and 6 units of content courses, or the equivalent training, a number of hours to be chosen from a list of courses to be provided by the board and the Department of Education before they can be allowed to practice their profession in the country. So you need to, for 5 years to be a professional teacher, you need to take at least 12 units ng education courses, and of course 6 units of pedagogy and 6 units of content courses. Next slide, please. Those who have failed the licensure examination for professional teachers with a rating of not lower than 5 percentage points from the passing general average rating shall be eligible as a para-teachers upon issuance of by the board of a 2-year special permit, renewable for a non-extendable period of 2 years. The para-teacher shall be assigned to areas where there is a shortage or absence of a professional teacher, as identified and provided by the Department of Education or DepEd and the Autonomous Region for Muslim Mindanao or ARMM, Education Department, to the Board for Professional Teachers, and to the Commission. The special permit shall indicate the area of assignment of the para teacher. A special permit may also be issued by the board to a person who has excelled and gained international recognition and is a widely acknowledged expert in his or her respective field of specialization. So, kung bumagsak sa licensure exam yung isang taker ng exam, basta kailangan not lower than 5 percentage points ng passing general average, magiging eligible siya for para teachers, which is temporary teachers na pwedeng maging substitute for professional teachers and has a special or pwedeng mapalitan na license. Permit pala. Section 3, Section 31 of the same act is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 31, Transitory Provision, special permits with a validity of 3 and 5 years issued to para teachers by the board and professional teachers before the effectivity of this act shall be allowed to expire based on the period granted therein, provided that only special permits with a validity of 3 years may be renewed upon expiration for a non-extendable period of 2 years. So dito sa RA 7836, 5 years lang siya for permits. Dito sa Amendment Act, nagkaroon ng special permits with a validity of 3 to 5 years para sa mga para teachers, and also they can renew it for the extendable period of 2 years. Next slide, please. Section 4 references to the term of the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports in Section 4, Part A and Section 25, and the term DEX in Section 20 of the same Act are hereby amended to read as Department of Education and DepEd respectively. So, yung Department of Education, Culture, and Sports and the term DEX, napalitan na siya for as Department of Education and DepEd. Section 5, Separability Clause, if for any reason any section of provision of this act or the application of such section of provision, any person or circumstance is declared unconstitutional or invalid, no other section or provision of this act shall be affected thereby. So of course, for this Republic Act, kung merong isang section ng hindi sabi natin invalid, so hindi yun makaka-affect sa buong Republic Act na to. Section 6, repealing clause, all laws, decrees, circulars, administrative orders, rules and regulations, and other issuance which are inconsistent with the provisions of this act are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. So kung may inconsistent na isang parte, di modified. So, almost lahat naman ng Republic merong separability clause and repealing clause. And Section 7, which is activity, that shall take effect upon approval ng President and the Senate. Next slide, please. So, i-discuss dito summary na lang ito ng 3 laws about teaching and education to teachers. Importance of the 3 laws about teaching and education to teachers. We have the 3 laws here about Presidential Decree 10006, Republic Act number 7836, and Republic Act 1990. So, alam naman natin na yung kanina discuss na natin to, summarize lang to. Presidential Decree 10006 about providing highest quality education to all teachers. Also provide assistance from the government and also improving the education system for teachers and for its students, and ideal practices para ma-improve, mapagandang pagkakaroon ng practice sa mga teachers, ituro sa nilang magandang way, proper orientation about to school students educations. Yun lang. And Republic Act number 7836, which is yung Professionalization Act of the Philippines na magkakaroon ng licensure examinations, also giving those teachers, uh, im- will they improve their quality of being a teacher, improving quality of teaching sa kanilang mga respective schools and classrooms, and also dahil nga ini-improve natin ng mga quality ng mga teachers doon, pati teaching nila, may improve din yung quality ng mga estudyante. And Republic Act 9293, which is the Amendment Act of Republic Act number 7836, in-improve lang yung ibang sections doon, which is nagkaroon na ng para teachers, which is parang temporary teaching, which will also help for the number of workforce of teachers in the country. Also, doon din nakita natin yung pag-iiba ng from nakasanayan nating Department of Education, Culture and Sports, naging Department of Education or DepEd ngayong from 1996 something to the present day. And yun lang. Thank you for listening.
To formally end this discussion, I will leave a quote by Robert John Meehan saying, "The quality of an exemplary teacher is demonstrated by their willingness to set and maintain the highest." We all agreed with this quote. If we want change to happen, then let's exert effort to improve ourselves first. Our skills and knowledge to become a competent and effective teacher should be the way. We can all teach, but not all of us can give a quality of teaching. As a pre-service teachers, that should also be our main goal. Again, thank you Group 4 for that educational and meaningful discussion. We hope that the said laws will be installed to all of us, not only for our future, but for the future of our students. So, before we end this webinar, I would like to remind our pre-service teachers to answer the given quiz and evaluation form. Thank you and have a nice day ahead.